Hello, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought of finding a way, or if there was already a way established for you to be able to help out to lower poverty, lower people who are unsheltered, or even help in general with the idea of equality or equity? Hello, my name is Marisol Zuniga, and today, alongside my group with Jason, Jessica, and Alexa, we're going to present to you some information about basic income. So the first thing that we have to address is what exactly is basic income and what are some key terms or key acronyms to remember as we're going along with the slides. So basic income is actually known as the acronym of BI, which can also be known as UBI or Universal Basic Income. This could be used both through the micro, so right here in, well, meso, right here in the different communities, or also through the macro, which is globally. It is the proposal of certain amount of funding to distribute to people within an approved area in an agreed amount. And this is per the Stanford Basic Income Lab. And it talks about basically you understanding that BI helps that certain group, community, or society if it already has been approved through the federal level, or even just sometimes even through the state level. When it is approved, it is distributed regardless of work status and economic situation. The way that this is interpreted is if the community is already approved from there, regardless of whether you're working or regardless if you are unemployed in that moment, if you're within that certain group area, you already qualify because that area has already been approved. So some specific interest and overview of topic. This allows us for us to really understand, what is the reason why BI is being looked at through the social work perspective. So why are we exploring BI? So BI has been looked at both nationally and internationally, which we're going to talk about later on in the rest of these slides. It talks about how there have been examples both here in the United States, but also how it actually matters to social workers and over there and globally as well. As social workers, we're going to be in a field in an actively crumbling society. The reason that this is stated in this PowerPoint presentation is the fact that we are called to be changing agents. And one of the things that we must practice is that competence and understanding how to further our knowledge, but also further the action that we do in the societies or in the field that we're going to work in the future, no matter if you work with children and also if you even work with the older adults. The reason why is because you want to advocate for them to be able to have opportunities to be able to afford basic necessities or to avoid a situation where they could become unsheltered. So an overview of this is that we're going to talk about the history of BI. So what exactly started BI or the concept of it, and some examples up to now as to who might be in leadership right now, or some example of people who have advocated for BI. The statistics and cases of support. This means that we're going to talk about the percentages, or even in general, just some ideas of what countries have actually participated in BI, who has done studies, and who is actually constantly implementing BI. The multiple views of BI. This actually talks about the breakdown of understanding, how maybe some conservatives might feel about BI, but also how might some democratic or more liberal standpoints also feel about it, but also see how it could also become a common standpoint between both parties as well. We're also going to talk about the any approximate changes in 2 to 5 years. This is vital, especially for us as social workers and what we're going to be going into the field in. Hopefully a lot of us are going to graduate sometime soon. And so one of the things is we can anticipate at least a conversation of BI happening, or maybe how to further advocate for it. How BI is approached based on demographics. This is also super important because of the fact that none of us are going to go exactly in the same demographic area that is in the society, because there's different ideas of demographics, whether it be through low income, middle class, upper class, or even just in general with the populations that you're working with. Like I said, from a child to adolescence to even working with one-on-one therapy. Research on the subject. This is understanding as to how BI has once again been implemented before, or any changes that have happened, or any ways that for us to further look into BI. And then the validity of BI and the view through social work. This comes back and correlates to the idea of competence, but also understanding the dignity and worth of a person, which are some of the values in social work, because of the fact that many of us, whenever we work with the field and we work with the people that we are assigned to, we must understand their viewpoint through any struggles that they have, and one of them is being through income. Now, especially us as social workers, we're called for the advocacy of both our clients that we work with, but also in general for the society as a whole. So having this idea of BI and knowing how exactly we can work through it or work on it through the advocacy for it could be necessary for us in any practicum or once we go out into the field. So the history of the topic, this is super important because you are able to further understand and also grow your competence in knowing what exactly is BI, but where did it actually come from? So the understanding of BI can be traced back to before it was looked at monetary wise. So according to Witterquist, a lot of the times actually back then, nomadics were actually known as hunters and gatherers, actually used to use in their society, they actually used to use it BI, but through actually land. So the way that I actually look at it is that they would treat land as commons, which is the actual vocabulary for it. So as commons, so everybody could use it and not own it. The whole idea of this is for, again, not to sit here and claim that this is yours or this is mine, but also have the ability to share amongst your community. And a smaller nomadic or hunter societies actually had rules about what they would share or to always share what they had with others. How this could be looked at back then was that if somebody actually found food within that smaller society, they actually had to share with everyone. And so even though we have these two examples of a 60 person-ish society was sharing land, when you're looking at smaller societies, according to Witterquist, they are actually sharing the food, and the food was actually seen as a way of to be BI without it actually talking about it through money. The second one is through a philosophical standpoint. So writings by Sir Thomas More, which explored the ideas of BI in his book, Utopia, during the 16th century. Why does this matter? Because during that time, when Utopia was written, the idea of the book was actually that it was about a dream society, which is what utopia means. And so the way that Sir Thomas More actually wrote about it was saying that, oh, there's this dream island. And in this dream island that is fictional, there is no greed, no power struggles, because there is no money problems or anybody that I could actually could say this is private property or I own this property. And because of that, it actually focused on harmony within society instead of it looking at it through greed or through money hunger of saying I'm better than somebody else. So this book explored that and the concept of BI. The concept was further brought to light in the 20th century when Milton Friedman, an economist, proposed a negative income tax according to Stanford Basic Income Lab. Now, what exactly does this mean? So negative income tax actually is in a gist. It talks about how people who are wealthier and how they would have to pay taxes in cash to make up for that threshold that is in between. So those people that were making more, they had to pay like in cash this between area. And then the people that were actually making less than that middle threshold, they would actually receive cash credit to in order to kind of in a way be in this middle area and not have it be where, there's this big gap between people that are in the poverty level or below that threshold and the people who are wealthier. So then the wealthy people could actually give back or would have to give back, and it would actually help with for the people that are lower than that threshold. Over the years, BI has received support and increase in establishing this economic idea by diversity of people. Now, why is this important? Because later on, when we talk about how it is seen in different communities and how it is even seen to help alleviate or help other people by talking about equality and equity, these are very prime examples of it. So why do I say that? Because one of the people that actually supported the idea of BI was Martin Luther King. Why is this important? Because back then, even up to now that we know, is that there was a difference between, the wages in people that were of color and people that weren't. And so one of the advocates for that was Martin Luther King, to help bring that bridge between, the people to not see us as a color, but to see us as a general as a society. One of the other things that's super important again is actually that advocated for it were feminists like Carol Pateman. Again, why is this important? Because of the fact that when she actually brought up this idea and supported BI, it's because again, you're seeing that gender inequality based off of wages or based off of money. Marxists such as Antonio Negri and even current people in power such as Elon Musk have actually brought up the idea of BI as well because of the fact that how you actually see the difference and the changes and the examples in between when you're seeing the levels of people that are in poverty, the people that are wealthy, and seeing how this could help alleviate the people that are approved during those in certain areas, not even just in the United States, but an example of global, which we're going to talk about further on.